That won't sell, but I tell you what, you make a rap that's as dirty and low down as you could make it. And if you do that, the next time we'll let you do this one that you want to make. Even the radio stations are complicit. You play this rap because King Louis in Chicago got 400,000 or 500,000 followers. And
Dirk, Lil Dirk or
Lil Herb,
Lil Herb? Okay.
Lil Herb, he got 400,000 or 600,000. So I'm on the radio, I'm playing King Louis' beef, and somebody is pushing Lil Herb's beef. So as these beefs are played over the radio, then each of them have followers. Then the fight starts in the streets, in the clubs. Bullets are shot out. People are arrested. They're in prison. Where's your woman? She's without a man. He's in prison. They test him coming in. Do you have any AIDS? We'll see. We'll test you. But while you in, you become somebody's woman. And then you come out and you go back to your girlfriend and give her AIDS. And so black women now are the top purveyors, they say, of the AIDS virus. How did that happen? That's biological warfare. What about these drugs? That's chemical warfare. And we are not smart enough to see that we are living in the very valley of the shadow of death. And it's all a conspiracy from the top of the government. How could we serve a government like this? Why should we? Why should we pay taxes to a government that the educational system ain't worth nothing? The police are killing us and we pay their bill. How could we enlist in the army to go fight a war thousands of miles away when our fight is right here in America for justice against the tyranny of our lives? See, somebody got to say it.
Well, let me ask you this. You said to Snoop that you guys are being used, in the wrong way. I'm paraphrasing with your gifts. And rap music, hip hop culture is the most, in my opinion, one of the most influential cultures. It's more influential than religion today.
It is religion.
It is religion.
New religion.
New religion. People listen to what's said in lyrics in a rap song before they will scripture. Now, there's a diabolical plan that's been in place, but at some point, how do we reverse it?
We can.
We can't?
We can.
Okay, so how, if we're perpetuating these messages in our music, this is my struggle. I work on the radio every day, so I have to, the music we're playing, a lot of it is music I can't even stand to hear half the time. But I got to balance out what I play with music I think needs to be heard. But when you have these record companies telling these guys, if you don't make this music like this, you won't have a record deal, and these guys get in debt for whatever reasons, the money they make, then they can't sustain the lifestyle. It's hard to tell somebody not to continuously rap about that drug trade or what they did in the streets or shooting their brother or selling them drugs. How do we reverse that, and when do we take accountability for our own actions?
You're like a hamster running around this moving thing but making no progress. The record companies are very satanic. When you come, it's like sharecropping, like your grandmother and grandfather on the plantation. You say, man, that's a hot song. I tell you what, I like it, and I'll front you for an album. So the record company puts up the money. You get in, they give you an advance. And they sign you, and you happy. You know, I just signed with Universal, or man, I signed with this one and that one. Yeah, right. But now they put up the money for the recording, for the advertising of your album, and they have their people in radio to play your music. Now, the advance that they give you, one of the first things you want to do is get some bling bling so you can look like the other rappers who are very successful. The owner of the record company has a Jewish brother that's in the jewelry business. So he makes you a nice little bling bling, and you can buy a little car and ride in the neighborhood like a king. And then when it comes time to settle, how did I do? Well, I did pretty good, but they say I didn't bring in enough money on the album, so I owe them money. That's the same thing your great-grandmother did on the plantation.
Yeah.
Right? So now you got to go out on the road. They own the venues where you're playing. Oh man, it's such a game that is being played. Well, how do you fix it? Some things you have to destroy. Yeah, and then some might see, in order to escape being destroyed, I'll change. Snoop went away from our talk, and he made a song for the album called Let's Change the World. When you hear it, Snoop is really a genius. And he's done many things, but Snoop, like most, want to come up now and use their skill to make a change. I saw Snoop recently in the documentary with his son. I had tears in my eyes, man, because I loved Snoop as a dad. I saw the way he was with that son and how that son is becoming a giant. That's Snoop. That man, and all of them, they really got something within that they want to bring out, but there's pressure. So now either we take the business over, we become distributors. It ain't nothing to make a record today. You can make it in your house. But who will distribute your record? They own the distribution. So when I talked to Damon Dash, you know, my brother, when I told him about my album, he said, who owns the masters? I said, I do. He said, well, you don't need nobody. When you own your own master, then you are the master of your fate. Once you give it to somebody else and they start taking away money and giving you a check, when you're the owner of it all, then find a way to just cut them out. Then you can do what's in your heart, but you gotta be free. And what you're telling me is, I'm not free enough to really express my soul. I gotta do what I can over here and slip what I can over there, because I gotta eat, and that's real. So my brothers in the hood, when we go in to talk with them, they say, look, Farrakhan, I mean, you know, this is what we gotta do, because We gotta survive. And I understand that. I want to give you a picture. Joe Kennedy, the father of John Fitzgerald Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy and Teddy Kennedy, he was during Prohibition, he was selling liquor. It was illegal. He was making money. So he took illegal money and made clean business to wash the illegal money and give his children a future as president and senator with brilliance. See, Frank Lucas was not allowed to do that. I'm sure they would like to do something clean. We have a brother named Big Meech, who was a very successful drug dealer. They didn't care nothing about that. But when they arrested him, they wanted to get their hands on all the money that he had made. See, if he were like Joe Kennedy, allowed to keep the money and do something clean, he could have opened factories and given jobs by the hundreds. So it was with Rick Ross. $1 million a day and you end up with nothing. They arrest you, find out where your money is, take it away from you, dog you out, and then what are you now that you could have been if that illegal money were turned into a profitable, clean business? We are not allowed to do what white people do all the time. So we see that these young brothers that can't go 4 blocks, east, west, north, or south, this is their territory. And they're struggling. But in the next 4 blocks is another gang doing the same thing. But I can't cross the street to unite with my brother over here, and here's all these abandoned buildings that I could own if I pooled my money with my brother over here who's selling drugs. We could pool that money and come out clean if we weren't caught and made to pay a hell of a price. I'm not promoting crime, but what I'm saying to you is that they have never allowed us to profit from any business. Every time we raise a business to a certain level, they give us an offer that we can't refuse. So BET is gone. Ebony Magazine, Essence Magazine, all the hair care companies that we had, gone. Black banks closing down. We got to do something, brother, better than what we're doing.
Let me ask you this. I'm just listening to you talk, and I'm imagining while you're speaking how my 16-year-old daughter will receive this information, because she's growing up in a different world than I grew up in Oakland. She's going to private schools, and she's an equestrian. She's headed to Yale this summer for a summer program. She's going to Ivy League school, so she sees the world through a different lens. I remember she and I had a debate when she was 9 or 10 about, hey, who would you vote for if you were able to vote? When President Obama was at that time, Senator Obama was running for office, and she said Hillary Clinton. And I said, well, I like Hillary, but why Hillary? Not why him? He could be the first African American, first black president. And she said, I don't understand that. What do you mean? That, color didn't really register to her at that time, and which is true to a lot of kids. So they don't really identify with a diabolical plan or even racism. And I'm a paraphrase. I remember Kanye even made a point that in this era, it's not so much about racism, it's about classism. What would you say to that? Do you agree with that, or?
You know, they had something on television where they had a black doll, a brown, a red, a yellow, and a white doll. And they asked, which is the bad doll? And the child picked up the black one. Which is the good doll? Child picked up the white one. In Africa right now, the biggest seller is bleaching cream, because we are not conscious of who we are and love ourselves for the way the Creator created us. Your beautiful young daughter growing up in private schools in a white environment.
Yeah.
So, you know, we put our children in environments to give them the best chance, the best education, but we don't realize sometimes what we're doing is we're robbing them of themselves. And they're in a white environment, and they're being made white. After a while, there ain't gonna be no black man in life, because he's not worthy. Because if Obama, with all his accomplishments, wasn't worthy of a vote, then Hillary was the one that she had most confidence in. That's telling you a state of mind that will have to be corrected over time. And if we don't, okay, then who will she bring home for dinner? To you and your wife. Daddy, this is my boyfriend. Daddy, this is the man I want to marry. And you may ask her, well, why don't you want to marry a black man? For what? What have they done? See, our family is being taken. I mean, it's very skillful the way it's being done. Now, I know because I got something like this in my own family.
Really?
Yes.
A daughter, a grandchild, or?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But I'm saying it like this. When you put your children in all white environment, their constant companions are white. That's how they take us. You remember all of our artists? They started in what you call the Chitlin circuit.
Uh-huh.
You know what that is, right?
The South.
They play in all the southern clubs. And then one day a white person comes in and discovers them. They're great. We can do something with your talent. So when they take them out of that black environment and make them a crossover artist, then they start singing in higher class restaurants, supper clubs, more money, and then white people with substance, like they did with me, they say, we're having a party. Would you come sing a few songs and whatnot? So then you're in an environment now, and then as a black man, I remember where I played in a very upscale nightclub. I'm not going to name the name, not yet, but fine little Jewish woman. She was married, but she took a liking to the charmer.
The charmer.
And she was a great dancer, but very fine woman, well formed. So when she would put on her dance costume, oh, a charmer, would you zip up my garment? Well, I mean, I know I've seen my mother. She reached behind her back and pulled the doggone zipper up. So I would take her zipper, but I would never look down. Only to put my hand on the zipper. I wasn't studying the woman. But she wanted to see if she could make me. I'm just saying what it is for real. And I got to tell you, man, I ain't never let them get to me like that. Never. They offered me, some of them, I used to wear these, Calypso shirts, big puff sleeves and whatnot. And woman said, oh, I'll make you a uniform with $20 bills. I said, I don't need your money. She said, I think you're queer. She didn't say queer, she used another terminology. And I said, I tell you what, I know what I am, but you'll never find out. See, when you got control of you, you got power, man.
Yeah.
When you throw yourself away because some woman want to open her knees to you, then you just become a plaything, man. Don't nobody respect you. A woman respect what she can't have. Ask them.
That's true.
And if they said no, they lying.
10/10/15 and 20th anniversary of the Million Man March, Day of Atonement. And I remember 20 years ago I was fighting to come to DC and be a part of that Million Man March. I remember the 10-year anniversary as well. One of the things I always admired about you, even to this day, one of the things from your past that a lot of people that's attached to Minister Louis Farrakhan's legacy is your relationship, and you spoke about him earlier with Brother Malcolm. And a lot of folks, I even asked folks today, what would you have me ask him if you had a chance to talk? And the majority of people ask about your relationship with the Brother Malcolm. And what's happened since. People don't really know what happened since his death and your relationship with his family. They didn't see the Mike Wallace interview. They didn't know about you meeting with Betty Shabazz. Can you clarify what's your?
Of course. Yeah. Well, first, Brother Malcolm was my mentor. I've never met a more disciplined man. I was very fortunate to have him as my teacher. He was the greatest helper of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I would have given my life to protect his life because of my deep love for Elijah Muhammad and his being his top student. Unfortunately, there would come a time when he would break ranks with the nation and break ranks with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad over an aspect of Mr. Muhammad's personal life. Before that happened, if you remember when John Kennedy was murdered, I don't know whether you know this, but Elijah Muhammad instructed all his ministers not to say anything about the assassination of President Kennedy. Brother Malcolm was speaking at the Manhattan Center, and he got through the lecture perfectly, but he had a question and answer period, and a man from the New York Times asked him a question concerning President Kennedy. And he made a statement that was true. It was a case of the chickens coming home to roost. However, he disobeyed the direction of the teacher. The next day, the newspapers said, Malcolm rejoices, in words, over the assassination of Kennedy. Now, we have many believers in prisons all over America under white Catholic gods. Persecution began because they loved Kennedy. Malcolm was exposing Kennedy, not telling lies, telling truth. But that violation of the instructions of his teacher caused the teacher to silence him. During that period of silence, I was invited to New York to speak on a particular Sunday as other ministers were coming in. And Malcolm came and met me and took me to his home on 2311 97th Street. And during the dinner, Betty brought the dinner in,